Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection. And as always, joining me on each and every Saturday, we've got from Perth, Scotland, Mr. Steven Reid, and from Lancashire, Mr. Simon Bray. What's happening, gentlemen? I see an empty glass. I see another empty glass. Someone's already full. So since
it was full. I started early.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So before we get started on the topic of today, which is all about the band Europe, Stephen, you might as well talk about your beer because you're already sipping away, and then Simon and I will divulge ours.
I'm sipping away, and I indulged last week in reading the nonsense on the back, but I have to read the nonsense on the back of my Knockendoch. Okay. From the Solworth Brewery, and I've supped from here before. Okay, Solway Ale. And on the back, Knockendoch, the dark one. Like the granite mountains behind our original site, and from which this superlative ale takes its name. It is a full-bodied natural drink, imbued with a quiet strength, which can sometimes deceive the unwary. I mean, what a lot of bullshit, but man, oh man, it's tasty. It's very tasty. That's the second one I've had from there, and they've both been really good.
So am I correct that this is 2 weeks in a row now? You guys have shown beers with planes on the front?
Oh no, these are birds.
What are they?
Birds. They fly.
Oh, they're birds. Okay. All right. Now I see. They look like planes at first. I was going to say,
they did.
Simon had some planes on.
I suppose they do from back
last week.
Yeah, I thought so. Good. See, I'm not losing the marbles quite yet. Simon, what do you have to drink here today?
Well, I did have plans, but last night I went to Morrison's in Nelson, rock and roll lifestyle that I lead. And I was doing that thing where you walk along the island. Suddenly I did like a Scooby-Doo little tick, like that. Oh yeah, great hair. And I saw for the first time in an actual shop the Number of the Beast version of Trooper. Yeah,
I've never seen that in my life.
There you go. I mean, nice. I do own the T-shirts of the Number of the Beast beer, and now for the first time, I'm going to pour it into my Trooper glass and test it.
So, nice. Is it different from a Trooper, or is it just a different label?
Just says Number of the Beast on it. I'll tell you if it's got its own separate thing on tap, so I'm guessing it must be relatively.
My Fear of the Dark thing does say Trooper on the front.
Yeah,
but that was a dark English stout, and it was very tasty from a few weeks back when I cracked it open.
Yeah.
You know, I've tried the Maiden beer, the Trooper, once when it first came out. They brought some over here to the States. I didn't think it was anything spectacular, but that was many years ago. So I don't know. Maybe they perfected it since then.
It certainly has sold well, and it's won awards. I don't think it's the best beer out there, but there's nothing wrong with it. And that one was good. It was very tasty.
I find it very Moorish. I really do.
Which means,
and it will doubtless get a mention at some form of concert-based episode in a while.
So to explain, Peter, when he says it's Moorish, he means he'd like one and then he'd like more. And more.
Oh, well, that perfectly makes sense. I thought I was missing something about on the moors or something like that. I'm like, all right,
not the Moors. They would be Moors.
Yes. Okay.
It's not like I'm going to drive to Saddleworth to drink it. There's a deeply obscure reference, isn't it?
So I have for today a Millhouse Brewing Company. It's a local brewery in.
Is it Poughkeepsie?
Yes, indeed. And it's called Cold One, spelled K-O with the 2 dots on top, whatever the hell it is. LD1, a German Kolsch style ale. Look at that. I know a little bit of.
I mean, it's a metal name that it's got. I mean, if it's got umlauts and it's
umlauts are always cool.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to crack that and put it into this wonderful little beaker glass that I got from. Where did I get from Vermont? I believe from the Vermont Brewing Company. No, Burlington Brewing Company. That's where I got it from, in Vermont. I see some suds. All right, I will pour off camera. So as we're doing this, and we should take a celebratory sip before we get started.
He thinks he's off camera.
Oh yeah, well I guess not. Well, yeah, it's a little sudsy up there, but
That's not bad for a glass like that. That's not bad.
yeah, I normally wouldn't drink it out of this, but I haven't shown this glass yet, and I love it. So, cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, big ears.
I do love an ice cold, well done Kolsch, I tell you. So today, as we have discussed, it's all about the band Europe. We're going to go back to our beloved format, favorite, least favorite, and a wild card. So we've each picked our 2 favorite Europe albums from the great Swedish band, and our 2 least favorite, and a wild card. Once again, I will say I don't think they've ever put out a bad album, but I personally definitely have some that I like a lot more than some of the others. So this was more about trying to pick my 2 favorites. I think that my 2 least favorites were pretty set in stone. The wild card was tough, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So let's go Simon first, then Steven, then myself with our favorites.
Thank you so much. I would point out that one of the things that I did in preparation for this, apart from listening to every Europe album, some of them quite a few times, was I watched one of us rank the Europe albums. Yeah, just to take a bit of a test. So,
Simon,
yeah,
who did I do that with, Simon? Because I don't remember.
You did it by yourself.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, you laid into albums that you laid into stuff that I'm going to say is their best shit.
Okay.
My favorite shit. And I'm gonna, I think the other week you said, you've got to be true to yourself, and you are such a wise man, Pierre. Yes, you are. And I'm just gonna go for it. My very favorite Europe album is The Final Countdown, an album that you said was not held up well. How wrong you are, my friend. Yes, you are.
I did do that show 2 years ago, so I
just saying. Wow, it's other than On the Loose, it's virtually perfect. It's an absolute classic of the genre, right from the very, very start of what many people are describing as that song. Yeah. And let me tell you about my relationship with that song, because some people seem to think that song is overplayed and stuff, which I'm sure it is, but I have managed over much of the last 30 odd years to kind of like live in my own little, what I like to call Simon bubble. Yeah, I know, it's a great place to be. It really is. I have genuinely, and people don't believe this, not really seen an advert in the last 35 years, because I really fucking hate them. I loathe adverts with every fibre of my being, and I'm aware that it's on adverts. I know that it is. I have not listened to radio for probably a similar amount of time, because it's shite. Particularly in the UK, it's just just. I might as well not exist, because they never played anything I like. So I live in my own little bubble. And to me, The Final Countdown, the song, isn't overplayed, because it gets played when I want it to, mostly.
Which is a good thing.
I know, it really is. And I chose yesterday, when I was running Boy Junior home to his little house down the M65, to listen to The Final Countdown album. And he was rocking away to The Final Countdown. Then he kind of rocked the night. And then we got to Carrie. And I do that thing that really annoys my family, and when I lifted my hand up because I wanted him to do the whoa whoa bits, and then I realised that my younger child is completely unfamiliar with the song. I failed as a parent.
Wow. Yes.
I know. You don't even want to know what crap he actually does listen to, but that's the one. I would also point out that I've been to a couple of kind of record fairs recently, and you really can pick up the Final Countdown single for about 8p anywhere. Certainly in East Lancashire, you really. Yeah. However, it remains a great record. I just love it. Danger on the Track, Ninja Survive, Cherokee. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. There you go. Yeah, I just love it so much. But do you know what really strikes me? And I think this is important. What a great singer Joy Tempest is.
Oh, yeah.
And yet you never hear, he's never in the conversation. You remember when we did Man of War, and we said a similar thing about Eric Adams? Joey's never there as well. But I would like to say that as a very, very, perhaps protest too much straight guy, when Joey sings, "Can't you see it in my eyes? This might be our last goodbye." I just feel, Joey, no, please, no, it won't be, Joey. Everything's going to be all right. Please don't go. I think he's a really, really excellent singer. And I just want to say that part of the reason why I think Europe get missed out of many, many countdowns for being awesome is they just look like they've got poodles on their heads.
Especially back then. Yeah.
A bit ridiculous. But didn't everybody back at that point?
Everybody did, yeah.
Yeah. They look a bit like...
The reason why they weren't bigger here in the States, I mean, they were with that album, but then they didn't tour here enough. They didn't come over here all the time like a lot of the other bands did. I mean, if they were here relentlessly from that album through at least to the Paradise album, they would have been absolutely enormous here. As it was, they were somewhat of a big band for a very short amount of time. But they just, and then, of course they broke up and then they got back together and they still don't really come over here. So it's a shame.
I just wanted to stand up for the final countdown album because...
And I will say, Simon, again, I have to rewatch that episode because I don't, I do so many of these, I forget sometimes. But I think for me, I do like the Final Countdown quite a bit. I think maybe my point at the time, and again, I'd have to watch it in context, but that it hasn't aged as well is because I think their more recent output has been so great that to me, that stuff has eclipsed that album, although it still is a really good album. I listened to it too last week, and I'm like, damn, most of these songs are still as much fun as they were back then. I just, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds because we haven't even gone through one round here yet. But yeah, no, fine album, I think.
Oh, thanks, Pete. Excellent. Yeah. Oh, this is the. Do you remember just before we came on, I said I could not find all my Europe albums because I'm pathetic. I think we've all realised that my system upstairs doesn't work, mainly because I just throw stuff.
No, Simon, there clearly is no system.
That's the point. Really is the point.
And we got to get you and Chris Allo an intervention. I think same thing for the both of you guys every week.
I know that I'm not going to do anything about it.
For a modest fee, I will help both yourself and Chris out. That would be my dream job.
I am.
Steven will be like, oh, Simon, you have 4 copies of this. Would you mind parting with one?
Just to make room for filing.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah. I am so rubbish that just over there's Gene Simmons' arsehole is still sat there. I haven't even been bothered to walk it up the stairs.
And that was, wow, how long ago was that?
It's a while, isn't it?
Like 3 months ago?
He sat over there next to Todd Rundgren. I'm just
Steven, that's like I'm having the same conversation that I have with Allo every week.
Yeah.
He's like, Pete, it's like, I've been looking for this damn CD, but yet there it is in my dining room because I did a show 5 months ago with you where I had to pull it and never made its way back. And every week there's more that's not making its way back, right?
Scary stuff. It is scary stuff.
Oh. Indeed. Anyhow, the one that I cannot find is my other favorite. I've got one of my least favorites that I'm going to need help on. My other favorite. Are you ready, Steve? Ready to start digging? This is another one that Peter didn't really like. It's the Def Leppard album, Prisoners in Paradise. I loved this when it came out. I utterly loved it. I really, really did. There's the Jobby. What a great record. From start to finish, I just love it so much. It just great tunes, great performances, shreddy stuff from Key Marcello. Just really, what a great, just earworm after earworm after earworm. It was, I think it was, well, it definitely was with the I'll Cry For You single that Mrs. Simon said to me, do you know, you just play the same shit over and over. And I said, yes, I'm aware of that, and I'm going to listen to it one more time. By that, I mean 38 more times.
You answered, Simon. Yes, that's because it's the only CD that I can find.
Yeah.
I actually only started buying CDs in 1990, so it wouldn't have been far from the truth. I'm just saying. Yeah, I'd like to know how I graduated from my very first CD I ever bought was Neil Young's, the one with
Ragged Glory.
Country Home. Yeah, how did I graduate from that to Prisoners in Paradise by Europe? God, I'm a strange.
Amazingly enough, I think that was one of the first ones I ever bought too.
Yeah,
or in the first batch. Yeah.
Yeah. See, there you go. I didn't do that shit buying Dire Straits in 1985. No, I waited till the good stuff came out. Yeah, just saying. Anyway, I really like this record. I utterly adore the title tune. Got your mind in the guts. I mean, it doesn't. It's good from start to finish. Not all albums are, I find. Saw them on the tour. More of that in a few weeks' time. Yeah, big thumbs up. Never really thought of it as the Def Leppard album until you pointed it out, but now I can see that sense of overproduction. And when I was doing my pathetic bit of research, it's actually categorized on Wikipedia as glam metal. Yeah, what's all that about?
You mean they have hair on their head, so it's glam?
Well, I think at the time, Uncle Keith didn't have that much hair. Certainly not as much as he's got now. So.
It is interesting that there actually isn't a picture of them. I mean, I'm sure there will be inside the booklet, but they're not pushing the band here, are they? At this stage, we're serious rock musicians. Def Leppard album. Okay.
Sweet, that's what he said.
Well. Yeah.
To me, he's down there. I don't know where he is, where everyone else is looking.
Yes, to me too. Yeah.
I'm just looking at him down there thinking, Anyway, I really like it.
More
really
about
like
that later.
That would make an excellent t-shirt, wouldn't it?
Yes. You say it often enough, right?
Indeed. I have done with my favorites. I'm not saying best, because I actually think the best is a different one, which I'll talk about later. But I just they encapsulate a time and a place for me, and I really like them.
Yeah, it's all about the ones we listen to the most, that we mean the most. So, yeah.
Yes, it is important. We do make the distinction every time we do one of these shows that please list your favourites. They may well be the best, because in my opinion, that's the best. That's my opinion, and it's also my favourite. I absolutely adore Last Look at Eden. Yeah, I mean, they'd had a couple of albums after they had reformed by this stage. This was 2009, but this was the one that really, to me, said, we are back. This album means business right from the off. You've got what on most albums by most bands would be a completely pointless intro. It's not on this, because it builds into the title track, which is utterly immense. You've got massive strings, you've got huge riffs, you've got great vocals. It's just stunningly good. And really everything from here on in is top-notch stuff. The album sounds fantastic. Gonna Get Ready is brilliant. It's just so good. New Love in Town, there's the slow song for everyone. It's such a great tune. It's heartfelt and it means everything. The Beast, Mojito Girl, I absolutely love this album. It was, for me, I'm probably going to be alone on this, it's head and shoulders above a fantastic catalogue. That's where I am with this album. It's the one I always go back to. I just think it's phenomenally good. It's just perfect. And I don't say that about very many albums. This has made a massive impact on me at the time, and it has stuck with me. So yeah, Last Look at Eden, it's my favourite. And in my world, it's also their best. I appreciate that we all have different opinions on that, but that's where I am with Last Look at Eden. Phenomenal stuff.
I had it very much had it as a contender, probably until about 5 o'clock tonight.
Okay.
I'll listen to something else. Yeah. Again, let's be honest. We're choosing stuff bands that we like at the moment, aren't we? Not being uncritical, but boy, we've chosen some good ones thus far.
Yeah, it has made it difficult in such a good way, because there have been some that we've chosen so far to turn this focus on, where the least obvious or the least favourite has been quite obvious, sorry. And I have not found that for Europe at all. But my other favourite, see, I'm here. I'm out of this world. I'm in 1988. Now, I'm a huge John Norum fan, okay? A huge John Norum fan, but Keith Marcello's fantastic on it. He's just outstandingly good on this. You know, I mean, Norum's done great solo work. He's worked with Dawkins, was excellent. But I've got to big up Keith Marcello, who really is a bit of a kind of forgotten character in this band. He came in right at the wrong time, and he left and was invited back, to be fair, if you believe the way the reformation all happened, and declined that offer. And I understand that too, to be fair. I think that's fair enough. But I think that this album is the perfect balance between excellent guitar work, some really good riffs, and yeah, it's keyboard heavy. We're following on from the final countdown, but they made a statement, I think, with the other single that I bought by the band, which was Superstitious. It's got massive organs on it. And I remember buying this and thinking, who the hell is this band? I bought a song by the right band. They seem to be on the front. It says the song name on the back. Why have I got a Deep Purple song instead? You know, because that, I mean, okay, it does lighten up from there. It's not Deep Purple in that sense, but it's got that feel. I do think that already Europe were trying to kind of say, do you know what? We're not all fluff. We're not all massive hit single. We're a proper band that writes proper songs. And I think that comes across right across this album. You've got Open Your Heart, which, yeah, okay, it is a reworking, but it's really, really good. Ready or Not, I just adore that song. Absolutely adore that song. And this, to me, it's a theme that we touched on last week, is I really have a lot of time for 80s hard rock. It's what I raised myself on, for want of a better turn of phrase. And I don't apologise for it. And I'm not one of these people that now looks back on it and goes, you know, I was just young, that's why I listened to this shit. This isn't shit. This is great. It's absolutely fantastic. And I put it on now. Yes, it takes me to a time and a place, but only good albums can do that. Bad albums can't do that. Bad albums are bad albums when you buy them, and they're bad albums 30 years, 40 years down the line. This is not a bad album. It's a great album. And the keyboard work on here is outstanding. And I just really absolutely love it. And it's just one of those albums I go back to regularly. This is on every few months in this house. And I just never ever tire of it. So for me, we have got Last Look at Eden and Out of This World. That's my two favourites by Europe.
I haven't listened to Out of This World for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I thought, right, this is the one I'm going to banjo all the way into middle of next week. And then I realised, as I was listening to it, I was driving around, I know every word to every song on that album. Yeah. And that's a good thing. That says to me, at some point, I listen to it incessantly. And that's the thing about what we're currently doing. You go back to things and shit, because you know there's that much product out there, especially when you spend lots of time reviewing stuff, and you've got to listen to stuff because you have to, because somebody says, have you done that album yet? Notice I don't do that anymore. Sometimes the joy of just listening to stuff is just, oh, that's really cool. I'm actually enjoying it, listening to stuff, and I don't have to do it.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I love listening to new music. I thoroughly enjoy writing reviews. Having the opportunity to pass my opinion and have a few people read it is an absolute privilege. But also doing this series, as you've said, and going back to, it's a long time since I've kind of picked a band and gone, here's the catalogue. And it does make you look at it, I think, in a completely different way than just picking out your favourite album by that band, or what you perceive to be your favourite album by that band. Because quite often when you go back and listen, and this is not one of those occasions actually, because the two albums I expected to pick, having listened to everything again, is still where I picked. But Out of This World, for me, even going back to it now, I'm surprised by the fact that it kind of lands somewhere between Deep Purple and Joel and Turner Either Rainbow. Because when I think about Europe, that's not where I kind of think, you know, that was their sound. Because what comes before doesn't sound like that. The Final Countdown doesn't sound like that. And what came after, Sure as Shit, doesn't sound like that. And I put that album on and always think, oh, wow, this just hits the sweet spot for me. So, yeah, there you go. That's my two.
Cool. I will say I am really enjoying this beer, and it is not going to get me through the whole episode. So I'm going to try and. I love a good Kolsch. I will say that once again. All right, so once again, kind of like when I did the ranking a couple of years back, the top ones for me are kind of difficult because there's a whole bunch of them that I really like a lot. So, kind of going through these again, I think kind of like what Steven just said, even though I was a little unsure of where I was going to wind up today, I kind of wound up in the same place that I did a couple of years back, which is okay. That just means that, you still really groove to and enjoy the same records that you have for many, many years, right? So I don't know which one's number one or number two. I like them both pretty much equally. So I'll go chronologically here. From 1984, I'm going to go Wings of Tomorrow. So this is the first one I heard. And, I loved it back then. I love it now. Very different type of album from them. Right. This is, just absolutely killer early 80s Euro power metal, basically. It's amazing how much different the Final Countdown is from this. You got the terrific Stormwind. What a great opener. Joey, man. It's amazing when you listen to the first album and this, how much he improved in just one album. And then all throughout his career. Scream of Anger is like fast and furious with some great John Norum like shred guitar work. I mean, he is blistering all over this. Open Your Heart, I think is a great song. Should have been a massive hit. And I don't know whether I should be pissed at the record label or what. I don't know why when Out of This World came out and they redid that song, they didn't push that to the moon because they should have. Because if it didn't catch on back here because nobody knew who Europe was way back then, they should have done it then because everybody knew who Europe was at that point in time.
I think that's the best. This is the best version of that song, right?
Yeah,
the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bigging up the second one, but yeah, I'd agree, actually.
But they're both. It's a great song, regardless. I mean, it's just it's so good. What else? Treated Band Again is great. Aphasia is like a little instrumental. It shows. I mean, I love John Norum. Great guitar player. Title track is total anthem. Wasted Time, again, another kind of chugging Euro power metal. Lion Eyes is like fast and furious. What else? Dance the Night Away is kind of like this Deep Purple meets Thin Lizzy thing. You got the gorgeous ballad Dreamer. I mean, I love this album. The band sounds confident. They're sounding like they're ready to take over the world. And it's their second album. Like I said, such a huge jump up in quality from the first album. So I've always had a soft spot for this. So that's one of my two. And the other one, so I got 1 foot way in the past and 1 foot in the fairly recent memory here. I'm going to go War of Kings from 2015. Yeah, I'll agree with Steven. Man, their most recent handful of albums are just unbeatable. And I will say it again. I've said it a million times on this channel over the years. If all you know of Europe is Final Countdown and Carrie, and you've just not bothered with them because maybe you don't like those songs or you've heard them too many times or whatever, stop what you're doing right now and listen to any of the more recent albums we're going to talk about. If you want to start with War of Kings, start with War of Kings. If you want to start with the Eden album, start with that. I mean, they're all great, heavy. Let me just talk about the album. So the title track is big Hammond organ, big riffs, classic sounding. You could throw out names like Deep Purple and Rainbow and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and UFO and Thin Lizzy, put them all in a blender. Bloop, that's what you got. Amazing. You got Hole in My Pocket, big frantic heavy rock song. You got Second Day, which could be an outtake from Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. Yep. You got Praise You, which is again has that Zepp, maybe a little Whitesnake feel to it. It's kind of bluesy. Nothing to You, California 405, big Hammond organ, big guitar riffs. What else? Children of the Mind, again, another great song. It's kind of doomy. There's like a little Sabbathy doominess to some of the tracks on here. Rainbow Bridge is absolutely terrific. It's got this kind of like really cool mellotron that kind of reminds you of like Kashmir a little bit. Very, very cool. Light Me Up is just upbeat and lots of grooves. I mean, John Norum just throws in, these more recent albums, are not like big guitar solo albums like this was, right? But he still has plenty of presence on these albums, more so with the riffs and the textures. The solos are there, but they're not big and flashy. This is a band album, and Joey sounds amazing. The rhythm section is great. The keyboards are just amazing. Great Dave Cobb production on this. I mean, this is one of the great heavy rock albums of the 2010s, people. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Classic. I think this was like a top 5 album of the year in 2015 when it came out. I still love it. I was listening to it again today and I'm like, holy cow, it's still so great. So those are my 2, Wings of Tomorrow and War of Kings.
I think one of the interesting things about War of Kings, and well, the last 3 or 4 albums, no, actually the whole catalogue, is the relationship between the guitars and the keyboards.
Yeah.
Because it really drives how the album ends up sounding. Do you know?
Yeah. And that's why I always bring up the Blackmore thing and the Deep Purple thing, because there is more so on these albums than the past, where you have a lot of the riffs and a lot of the textures is it's like a cohabitating thing between both of them. And that reminds me of Blackmore and Lord back in the classic days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unmistakable.
I would say the first 2, the keyboards are asked to take a back seat.
Yeah, and when they show up, it's like as a solo thing, like kind of like the Yngwie Malmsteen Rising Force, right? Where it's like there's keyboards, but it's like you do a little bit in the background, you wait for your solo spot, and then you go back to the background. Whereas on these albums, it's Hammond organ or whatever kind of keyboard up front with the guitar. They're both at the same place and both hitting you just as hard. And I love that. That to me that's the way I like my heavy rock. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything they've done since they've reformed is just so mature. Like really, it's the best word I can come up with. It's mature. It's as if they know what they're doing and what they want to sound like, and then they sound like it. And do you know what? They got that audience of housewives with that song, and they're not pandering to that. You know, would I like a Final Countdown 2? Yes, I probably would. But that's not what they want to do, you know, and that's perfectly fine, because everything they've done, even though one of them is going to be in my lukewarm section since they've reformed, is excellent, really, really excellent.
That's why I think it's so important that we talk about them like we do here, so that if people do happen to go see Europe live, they're going to stay and listen to the whole set and not just wait for that one song, right? And know that they're going to get treated to some really, really great music that, you know, has been ignored by probably most of the people who were into this band back in the 80s, right? I mean, that's the sad thing, because their music now doesn't really sound like that anymore. And it's a different audience, it's a different time, different era. And I agree with you. They sound so mature now and confident in what they want to do. And kudos to them for doing it, right? They could have gone back anytime and done like a 80s style album that, you know, draws from those couple albums we're talking about today. But they've not done that. They've gone their own direction, and I think that's great.
They might do, and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about them live in, I say recent years, but probably the last decade or so, is they've tended to, when they play in the UK, not just come over on their own. So they're out right now with Whitesnake and Foreigner, and I saw them with Foreigner and can't quite remember who all of a sudden, top of my head, FM, I think it was, that opened that night. And they co-headlined with Black Star Riders, I don't know how many years ago now, 10, 11 years ago. And Black Star Riders opened. And the amount of guys that were kind of milling about, and you get chatting to people. So Black Star Riders come on, they were great, absolutely fantastic. They played pretty straightforward, heavy rock, bit of a nod to the past with Thin Lizzy, but they're driving their own thing forward. And there was guys coming saying, oh, well, you know, I see you're wearing a Europe t-shirt. Are they any good? Should I hang around? And I was like, honestly, wait till the end, come and speak to me at the end, and we'll see what you think. And if they're garbage, I'll apologise for suggesting that you should stay. And they were coming over and going, man, oh man, this band are so heavy live. They're just amazing. You know, the guitars are in your face. And I just didn't expect any of that. Even the classics that we knew are heavy live. they've kind of made those songs, you know what they are. Final Countdown comes on, you know it's that song, you know, Rock the Night, it's going to be Rock the Night. But it all sounds like it could have come off the last 4 or 5 albums.
Yeah.
And that to me is a great thing. Nothing against those early albums. Like yourself, I've gone for an earlier one, I've gone for a later one, but I've gone for just really either side of the split. It's kind of where I've landed it in those terms. But live, they're a juggernaut. And I've really enjoyed speaking to people who were there for the other bands on the bill, who've then gone, wow, that is not what I anticipated at all, you know? So yeah, it absolutely, you know, backs up what you're saying, Peter, that this is a serious rock band. And as Simon mentioned, I think now, well, they've made the money, you would guess, and they're probably still making the money off that song.
Yeah.
So they can just make the albums they bloody well want to now. It really doesn't matter.
Whenever they want to, right? Yeah.
In a box, they can just, you know what, we like this music. You'll have to too.
By the way, guys, it's been 5 years. Let's go. Time's a waste and we want another one, right?
Absolutely. Sorry, Simon.
Okay, are we in slag off mode or okay?
Yes.
The one I get the least is Secret Society.
Okay.
That said, it's got Always the Pretenders on, which is just absolutely immense. It's got Getaway Plan on, which is just the one that, you know, that's the job. It's just the one that gets me the least.
It's kind of their like
pretty good
grungy new metal-y albums, so sort of, right? But not. It's really not. It's just I think they just were experimenting with like down-tuned guitars and things. So it's got that heft to it and that kind of like early 2000s feel to it. I think the songs are pretty good though. You know,
yeah. It's just we have to pick something to slot.
Yeah, I know. We got to pick something, right?
Yeah, and you've highlighted the best ones as well, Simon. Always the Pretenders, because we did our top 10 Europe songs a good long while ago, Peter, and that was one of mine. I adore that song. It's just so memorable. That's the one that when this album's finished playing, I'm still singing that song. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Simon. It's not one of my two, but I can understand why when you have to choose something, that's kind of there. But it's really strong.
And do you know what? I definitely feel some creativity / cheating coming on. Yeah. Now that me and you are all together all the damn time on Twitter, I read what you said about me.
Has he been discussing this upcoming episode all week on Twitter?
Yeah, on and off.
So I got not to diverge here, but I got to ask. So how many people that you kind of are going back and forth with on Twitter watch this show regularly and love to get into kind of debates on Twitter about what we're going to talk about?
Oh, we've got a good group of people who are watching the show and then commenting prior, and then giving their opinions of what they think are favourites, least favourites, where we are going right, where we are clearly going wrong. No wonder. And then following up the next week. So yeah, there's a good group of people, and there's some excellent music chat as well if you want to come and join us. There's some really good stuff. And I do give Simon a hard time about, shall we say, making up some of his choices and choosing things like non-Saxon albums for least favourite Saxon albums and things like that.
I'm about to do the same with Europe. Do you know why? Because I can. You know that's always the answer, don't you? Yeah, I just want to lay into the CD single for Halfway to Heaven, but for specific reasons. Okay, the single's good, like the song, very big fan. God knows why they had to have that song as one of the 4 songs on it. Yeah, trying to push your new stuff with that song, eh? Yeah, well done, record label. Epic, yeah. Just saying. There's an acoustic version of Open Your Heart, which is really quite ropey, but it actually comes from Radio 1. Yeah, let's just cut out the American people right now. Holy shit, Radio 1 used to play rock music. Can you believe that shit?
Who'd have thought it? Yeah.
I know. I once, slight digression, I once had the happy joiners, because one of my friends works for the BBC, of going to broadcasting house, and I went up in the lift because all the lifts were named after radio stations, and I went up in the Radio 1 lift. This is about 10 years ago, and we only went up about 4 floors. I wanted to die. I just really, really wanted to die for that 2 or 3 minutes of Radio 1 that there was. And I can only assume it's got worse. Just saying. But what I really want to point out about the CD single for Halfway to Heaven is that it's got Yesterday's News on it, which is an absolutely immense song. It's so, so good. It's that good that there's a live version on it on the end of this one, isn't it? So, yeah, there's a live version.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah, it's that good. So in the same sessions that they made Prisoners in Paradise, they made this song Yesterday and they left it off the goddamn album. Why would you do that?
Madness.
Oh, madness. No, let's not go down that route, shall we?
Yeah, I never clocked that until now, or obviously I did at the time. That single was the first time I heard that song.
Yeah. Great song.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Really good.
Absolutely.
And it got relegated like Burnley are about to do to a B-side.
Well, you're speaking to a Dundee supporter. We're already relegated, so there you go.
There we are. Yeah, see, I told you. I told you I would be creative. I've done.
Some say creative, others would say cheating. So my least favorite.
He's doing his version of pulling a casino here on this one, right?
He's definitely pulling a Bray. There's no two ways about it.
You're all going to choose Prisoners in Paradise for your shitty one, so who cares?
Okay, so my choice, here we go, lots of reflection tonight, is Start from the Dark. That's the one that stuck out for me. Okay, 2004 comeback. I kind of went off the rails here. This is the only one that I've ever bought and then went, oh, okay. Because what you say about Secret Society is how I feel about this. I feel this is quite reactionary. I feel this is Europe coming back and going, we're a serious rock band. So we'll go, and it is heavy as hell, and it is really good. And there's stuff here like Got to Have Faith. The title track's excellent. Spirit of the Underdog, America. I mean, I really quite like the album. Hindsight has helped me like this album. But initially, when I first got it, I really did kind of think, I don't need them to Europify that sound. And that's what this felt like to me at that stage. As it is, it was a good starting point, no pun intended, for what came after. Sorry, so it really genuinely was no pun intended. Really was. But I can't help myself. So that's the only serious choice that I had in my bottom two, right? And I still like it, and I played it again this week, obviously, to give it a fair shot, and it still fell in the bottom two. But I do like it, and I'll happily listen to it. Now, I don't have a serious second choice, okay? So I thought about cheating, because some people do that on this show, right? I know we find it hard to believe, but some people on this show do that. So I thought about choosing this. Okay. Now this is just a hits collection. I mean, it's a hits collection. I mean, it cheats for a start because it's actually the 1982 to 1992 collection. Okay. And all they've really done is they've changed the colour of the cover and put a different year on the front. And they've put a different year on the front because the final track, and pun intended, is the final countdown. Okay, 2000. Now, if there's one thing I never needed to hear, ever in my entire life, it was that phenomenal intro going it's a dance version, it's a Euro dance version of the final countdown. And it was done for the millennium, and it was done for some big celebration. And it's utter dross. Utter dross. It's shit. It's a phenomenal song that is put in a meat grinder and just churned until it dies. Okay?
Please make it stop moments, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely utter garbage. But to choose that would be cheating. And I don't do that. So if you're going to tie me down put my arms up my back, slap me with a wet fish, then I'm going to go for the debut. Okay, because it's a bit naive, it's a bit rough around the edges. You can see where they're going to go. I mean, there's stuff on here like Seven Doors Hotel. It's bloody fantastic, right? So this is still a really good album. I still really like this album. And I mean, they look like a serious, sensible rock band. You look at this, I mean, moody and brooding and, you know, and that's kind of what the album sounds like, to be fair. This is not the commercial rock that they would make their name with in any shape or form. But I'm okay with this album. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. You look very confused, Sam.
No, that's my version thereof.
I have the same
different cover. Yeah. I mean, I'm easily confused. Yeah.
Look at those babies right there. Look at how young they look. Yep.
They're about 8, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know what's the original cover then. I would imagine that this really boring, tedious cover is possibly the original, because that's really unimaginative. Hold yours up again then. Okay.
Neither are very good, in my opinion.
No. So yeah, but same again, this is really good. I really like this album. I'll have to listen to it any day of the week. But if I'm going to have to choose two least favourites, because we are meant to choose two least favourites, I believe that's the way this works.
Yep.
Then that's what I'm going to go for. There you go. That's my two.
Well, I will equal you there, because my first choice for least favorite is the 1983 debut. Solid debut, right?
Yeah.
Pretty rocking for the most part. But they don't quite sound like they've figured it out yet, right? The production's not very good. Joey's vocals are nothing compared to what they would be starting with that second album. So I think this is kind of the guys, to me, you look at the picture on the back and you're like, all right, they look like they're in high school. It's kind of what it sounds like, but it's still decent, right? It's still decent. Future to Come is a great song.
Yeah.
Seven Doors Hotel is a great song. Children of This Time is quite good. I mean, nothing on here is bad. It's just, to me, it's not quite Europe yet. So I like it, but man, with that second album, huge uptick in quality and maturity and musicianship and songwriting and all that kind of stuff. So this was the first one I chose. And the second one, again, I like this album, but it's still their Def Leppard album. 1991. I mean, come on, man. You don't hear like all the big backing gang vocals and stuff. It's very overproduced. The songs are still good, I think. And I like the production of Beau Hill on this. I do. I just don't know if I like it on a Europe album, And I think my issue is, when this first came out, I had already moved on to other stuff. So I wasn't even listening to this. I remember hearing this album. I was like, where's my Slayer album? Where's my Testament album? That sort of thing, right? So in all the years since, I've gotten so into the latter period albums that I listen to this, and it's just the more recent albums are very kind of stripped down. They're a little different, and they're not overproduced at all. And this, to me, is just there's a little too much sheen here. And what's really weird is in the States, this bombed. This album completely bombed. Although you listen to it now, and it's like, why did it bomb? Well, because it was 1991, right? And grunge and all that stuff was getting huge here, and this was on the way out. But you know what? You released this album 2 years before. When did the so Final Countdown was what year? That was what, 86, 87?
Yeah, 88 for Out of This World.
So if this comes out in 89, does big business, in my opinion. 91, little late.
It's funny, Peter, because same again, a theme that I bumped my gums about last week is that in 91, well, I was still listening to this stuff. I bought this album because I was buying Europe albums. I was buying this kind of music, and to me, and it's interesting that the Def Leppard thing, because I get where you're coming from. If you're going to open a music bag and say which one do these go into, well, they kind of go into the same one. But to me, in 91, Def Leppard were over here somewhere, and Europe were over there somewhere. They didn't sound alike. I mean, they do, but they really don't at the same time. I mean,
it's just elements for me that I
in that sense. But if what you're sitting and listening to in an evening, and don't get me wrong, I had Slayer albums in my collection at that stage too. But if you were sitting of an evening and listening to Slayer, and then putting on Prisoners in Paradise, you're going to go, well, there's that Def Leppard shit. And it's interesting how, whereas to me, I was listening to Def Leppard in Europe and then going, let's have some heavy shit. And that to me, I think colours an awful lot about how we remember and re-experience those years. It's a really interesting journey in that sense, because we all like so much of the same, but the experience travels with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the fun of it. It's great.
Yeah. But it's a good album. I mean, I know plenty of people who like this, and it's one of their favorites from the catalog. And right, exactly. Yeah, I think Rich Catino, I think we had a conversation, and it's his favorite as well. So I mean,
he's always been one of my favorites as Rich. I've always really liked him.
Yeah, now I know why, right?
It does talk sense.
I mean, I think the songwriting on that album is great.
Both of you guys worship at the altar of the girl from Lebanon, right? So yeah,
very much so.
Yeah,
great song. That's a great song.
I mean, Seventh Sign, Bad Blood. I mean, those are really great songs. I love the guitar playing on here. Lots of keyboards. I don't know. It's to me, it's a little too slick, I guess. But I don't dislike it. I don't dislike any albums in this catalog at all. So I think again, we had to pick two, right? So
no, it would appear not.
No, yeah, not all of us did, right? Yeah, that is true. That is true. So all right, well now we get to wild card territory. Here's where it gets even more interesting.
Yeah.
So Simon, what did you choose for a wild card?
Just before I point out my wild cards, you know how rubbish I am.
Notice? Did you hear that? Wild cards.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how rubbish I am at keeping things, and because I don't have a book of tickets and shit like that, like some people do. Yeah, just what I do have, right? And this sums up me as a human being in a very real sense, right? Is that I've got the nice price version of the first two albums, and I bought this. I shit you not, right? On the Champs-Élysées in Paris at the Virgin Megastore. Right? And I may not keep. Yeah, we go on holiday, and I go to record stores. It's a particular. Yeah, there you go. It's something that's always irritated Mrs. Simon for the last 36 years. But anyhow, yeah, and indeed anybody that's ever been anywhere with me. But I might not have ticket stubs, but I do have the receipt for this record. Yeah.
Wow. And what is it dated?
139 of your French francs. Merci de votre visite. Well, there you go. I think I'm just fluent as well. Yeah. No idea what I did yesterday, but by shit, I know that in 1992 on the 4th of May, I bought that on the Champs-Élysées, and I feel like I probably should have been like in awe of everything else that was there, but no. Ooh.
So did you just say the 4th of May, 1992?
Something like that.
So it is almost 30 years to the day. Wow, that you bought that.
Yeah. Also, desperate. I listened to them earlier. Desperately in need of a remaster.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yes,
very much.
I do love that red case on that as well, Simon.
Yeah,
it's mine. Just say no when you come and rearrange my shit. You are absolutely 100% not stealing it. But
we'll have a little lock on that one, right? It's like, all right, file it up here. Steven's already high in that one.
I would suggest though that so is that the first two albums that are on that? Okay, so you don't actually need the one with the alternative cover that I can take home.
Sorry?
You don't need the debut album with the alternate cover. I can take that one home so that I can add that, because I like it's got a different cover. I saw the cover that you two held up and thought, I may have to get that one. He says, talking about one of his least favourite too.
Now that we've established I'm fluent, peut-être oui, peut-être non. J'aime beaucoup le petit déjeuner. Anyhow, moving along.
Okay, so for Mon Wildcard then, okay.
I'm just holding them up. They were my wildcard. I was just showing that I've got.
But you've not actually done your wildcard.
I'm saying that's not my wildcard.
Before the wildcard.
Oh, that's a show and tell for today.
Oh, okay. Sorry, excuse me. I can't believe
that was part of my audition for Curse of the Collective.
I will sit here quietly until you say it's my turn.
Okay, excellent. I'll actually say it's Steven's turn because it's my turn right now. Okay, my wildcard are. Yeah. Well, yeah. Walk the Earth. It's great. I actually think this might be their best record. I think it's the combination of everything that they've done over the last 20 years. It's really, really good. It's really heavy. It's great songs, great riffs, really interlinked textures between. Yes, Peter?
I have to not look at him because he's cracking me up.
Yeah.
Silent Steven is making me laugh. He doesn't
I like Silent Steven, don't you? We could just sit here, couldn't we, for a bit? Yeah.
Anyway, go on about Walk the Earth, because I do.
It's just really good, really well textured. Really, everything fits together. It's great. Really, really heavy, and also super sexy white vinyl. Oh yeah, you've got to like that, haven't you, Steve? No, you can't speak. Excellent, good times. And the other one, and this is where Stephen's really going to have to be nice and quiet. The other one that I really love is Start from the Dark. Yeah, it's great. It's so phenomenally heavy. It really is. And it's just great. Again, great. So Gotta Have Faith. Oh my gosh, that is great. Hero. That, wow. It's like one of those ballads. And, oh, Joey, I still love you. You're so awesome. You're so wonderful. And just. Have we finished?
You can definitely tell he was one of those kids when he got banished to the corner of the room that he didn't deal with that too well, right?
No. Did he have one of those big pointy hats on with a D on? I don't mean one of the other big. No, let's not go down that route. Yeah, yes, indeed. Yeah, just a really good record. Just Stephen thinks they came back and they were kind of showing up. I think they came back and just really hit the ground running and haven't stopped since.
That's true.
Just saying. Stephen, Simon has finished. Stephen may carry on.
Oh, right, okay, so my wild card is, let's see, good, right, so it's so good, I bought it twice. I have no idea why. I have absolutely no idea why I have two copies, because there's a variant cover, and I don't have it. Okay, I have no idea why I have two copies of this. I've played them both, neither jump, there's no sticks or anything like that on them, so there's no bonus tracks. I'm obviously just a bit dim and forgot I had an album that I've chosen as my wild card. Now, I've chosen this as my wild card because it's not my favourite Europe album and it's not my second favourite Europe album. But bloody hell, it's a good album. I don't care that it's got that song on it. Right, let's deal with that song. I've seen Europe, and I counted because somebody was kind enough to DM me on Twitter and we kind of chatted about when we'd seen Europe 6 times. And I will say that every time that when you are standing in a hall full of people who are either there for Europe or not, when they hear the whole place just goes absolutely wild, and all these snippy people that go, oh, it's bloody well final countdown, are jumping up and down, and they're punching the air, and they're laughing, and they're smiling, because it's a bloody great song. Do you know what? Yes, I will admit that I've heard it way too often, partly because when I bought this thing, I helped it get to #1 in the UK. I played along to the drums for this, because it's I mean, it's worth living just for that moment behind the drum kit. It's just so good. So I have listened to that song hundreds of times. I'm still not bored of it. I still really like it. Rock the Night, that's a great song. Carrie, yeah, you know, but I still really like it. Danger on the Track and Ninja, we're just on bloody well side 1 here.
Yeah.
It's really strong. What's wrong with On the Loose, Simon?
Sorry?
What's wrong with On the Loose?
It's just not as good as the rest of it.
It's a bloody Saxon song. Go back and listen to that riff again and tell me that couldn't be on a Saxon song from roughly the same era as this one, okay?
And do the vocals in a Yorkshire accent?
Yes.
I'll get back to you on that one.
Joey probably tried at some point.
Of course.
I do remember him sitting on daytime TV here one of the last times that they toured over here, and he said the word bullshit. It was morning telly. And I had to be pointed out to him that you don't say that on TV over here. That's not a word that you say on here, especially not at like 8:25 in the morning or whatever time it was.
He lives over here, doesn't he?
I think he lives in Ireland.
I thought he lived in London, but
Well, maybe you're right. I think he did live in Ireland at some point. I was reading up about them getting back together, and supposedly they got back together initially when he was in Ireland. So I presumed he lived there. I may have completely made that up. That's maybe complete and utter nonsense. I mean, I'm talking. There's a good chance. All right. So, but really, I really like everything on this, and it's my wild card purely because it gets such a damn hard time. And people dismiss it because they've overheard a really good song. There's a reason why you've overheard it. There's a reason why it's at sports events, why it's on adverts. There's a reason why you hear it on the radio, because it's got a catchy, melody to it. It's got lots of hooks, and it's got a lyric that fits lots and lots of occasions.
And how about that shredding guitar solo, man? I mean, come on.
Yes.
Right?
There's guitars all over this. I mean, John Norum left because of a keyboard band. That's as the story goes. He was allowed to let loose on this, though, on the loose. I mean, the guitar solo as that song fades out, it's killer.
Yeah.
It's really good in that sense. So yeah, that is my wild card. And me being me, I also do have to mention, and I love the fact that although it's not on the front of every album, they have a great logo and they have not fannied about with it. They have recognised the fact that this logo is bloody excellent. So let's stick it on the front of nearly every album. And when they haven't, they just haven't put their name on the front. So there you go. So my wild card is the one that everybody chooses to dislike. So there you go.
The choice. Yeah. I mean, I almost chose that as mine. But then I was like, all right. So, sometimes it's for me, it's hard to decipher like what's my criteria for a wild card. So usually it's like, and you said it before, Steven, it's like it's not one of my top favorites. It's not that much, not that far down. And it's not one of my least favorites, but it's up a little higher than that. So it's usually, for me, it's something that's either right in the middle of the catalog or like it's a live album or some kind of weird curiosity thing, right? Like a cool compilation or whatever. So today I kind of looked at all the albums and I said, well, what album do I really like a lot? But every time I go to think about how I'm ranking this catalog, it always kind of is in the middle. And that's 2012's Bag of Bones, which is damn good. Again, it's maybe not one of my absolute favorites from the latter period, but I do like this a lot. And I like Kevin Shirley's production on here. I know he gets a lot of shit from people, but I think he works really well with this band. And there's some heavy stuff on here. The title track is absolutely amazing. You got Riches to Rags, Beautiful Disaster, Doghouse, Firebox, freaking Demon Head, for crying out loud. And how about like Not Supposed to Sing the Blues?
Yeah, I'm going to mention that. It's so good.
Oh, so good. I mean, I think, again, if you're watching this program and you just don't know what Europe are all about these days or in recent memory, if you love bands like Badlands, right? Jakey Lee's band. If you love Mark II and III era Deep Purple, if you love classic Zeppelin, if you love some of the more melodic stuff of Black Sabbath, maybe like some of the 80s stuff, if you love UFO,
yep,
Black Country Communion, to put something in more recent perspective, you'll be all over this stuff. I mean, it's heavy, it's bluesy, it's melodic, great guitar work, outstanding vocals, tons of groove, and it just, Europe albums to me in recent memory, I listen to them and yeah, they're heavy, they're rocking, but they sound classic, right? They sound vintage. They don't sound necessarily like they're from a band that's, pumping out an album in 2015. Although they do have a modern kind of listenability to them, but there's little bits of all these great bands that we've loved all throughout our lives that's kind of woven into their DNA. They've never made any bones about that, right? They've always been like, hey, this is what we're all about. These are our heroes. They're all our age. So they grew up listening to the same shit that we did. And that's what they're all about now. They're like, all right, we had that big album or two, but this is what we're doing now. And so I think this is a terrific album, right in the middle of their catalog. It's like, it may not be one of their best. It's certainly far from being one of their worst, but it's really, really strong, as are many of these recent albums. And just because I do want to mention it because it almost made one of my top two. I almost went with their two most recent as my top two today. I think Walk the Earth is phenomenal. And I've been saying for years that this and War of Kings are two of my favorites. But I had to kind of Wings of Tomorrow. I still have a lot of history there. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I get all like, it's every time we talk about this band, I just want to keep talking more and more about them, because it's like I feel like they deserve it, and we need to kind of like wake people up a little bit when it comes to these guys, right? It's just...
I think that the recent, none of it particularly recent, 5-6 years ago since we last had an album, but I think that the last 4 albums in particular, if you can think back what feels recent in my world, 10, 20 years ago, we suddenly got a slew of bands who were desperately trying to rekindle a classic rock sound. Everybody seemed to want to sound like, Dio era Rainbow or Deep Purple. And they were all kind of pulling from that kind of sound. And what Europe have done for me is that they have tapped into that sound because that's where their influence comes from, whilst not actually really just sounding like those bands. Those bands from 10, 20 years ago, they released 1 or 2 albums, and some of them are really quite good. Well, they sounded like Rainbow. They sounded like Deep Purple. And that was the whole reason that those bands got together. But Europe still somehow managed to sound like Europe. Joey Tempest's voice helps. The fact that John Norum, you can tell it's him playing guitar, well, that also helps. The keyboards in Europe play a factor because they're not just aping sounds of old, but these are classic rock albums that happen to have really clever hooks and really memorable moments in them without just aping Led Zeppelin. There are some riffs that you think, yeah, physical graffiti. I would agree with that. That's a strength for me personally.
Yeah.
I find that the journey across those last albums is really interesting. And the other thing with Europe, for me personally, is that if you go from the debut to the most recent album, if you like straight up rock, as you say, UFO, the kind of classic stuff, well, you've got the debut album. If you like European power metal kind of sound, well, you've got the second album. If you like commercial rock, you've got 2 or 3 albums in there you can go for. If you like really heavy blues, I think you've got Bag of Bones. If you like a kind of 90-ish sound but updated, you've got a couple of albums there after they reformed. And if you like classic rock but done now, you've got the last 3 or 4 albums there too. They cover so much ground, and still people go, yeah, the Final Countdown.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. Yeah.
So that's my take on Europe.
So there you have it, everybody. Once again, yes.
I don't know. We set each other homework. I don't know if have we done homework. Myself and Simon surreptitiously in the last episode kind of set each other homework.
Okay. What was that homework?
Okay. So
you remember, Pete, because you were listening.
I'm sure I was. I need a refresher. I need a refresher. I don't just have these conversations with you two guys every week.
Simon mentioned a band called Walk on Fire. Okay, and he held up. I think I held up the album art on my phone. I don't actually have it on my phone now.
Just to prove I do actually have it.
There you go. So Walk on Fire, and the album is called
Blind Faith.
Blind Faith. Okay, so I went away and listened to this album, and I've listened to it really quite a lot this week. Okay, so this was released in 1989. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it is pure, unadulterated AOR. That's what this album is. So I took the influences that I took out of that, and some of these bands are from the same era, so I'm being slightly unfair to the influences. But to me, they're a great cross between Drive She Said, Boulevard, Ya Ya, there's a bit of bad English in there, and Strange Ways. Not quite as heavy as Strange Ways, but if you put all that together, you would end up with this album. Now, I believe they were Scottish, okay? Because they do have a song there called Caledonia. Not that Caledonia, not the... And I have to, I don't think my brother watches this because he's had enough of me in his life, okay? But if I say the name Dougie MacLean, I've got to go, Dougie MacLean! And he'll understand, okay? So that's for one person in the world. So Dougie MacLean wrote a song called Caledonia, and the famous version was redone by a guy called Frankie Miller, okay? And I actually picked up in some of the vocals here by Alan King. I immediately thought, oh, he sounds like Frankie Miller. I thought, is he Scottish? Then I realized I had a song called Caledonia, and I thought, oh, don't tell me they covered that. And they didn't. They just wrote a song called Caledonia with exactly the same emotions and exactly the same feeling and exactly the I Miss Scotland tone about it. And I kind of, Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I don't know. Why did they do that? But the album is really good. It is really strong. I do wonder why I've never heard anything from it before, because I haven't. I did kind of think that if I got into it, I would go, actually, I kind of know some of this, and I just didn't realize it was them. Hadn't heard a single note of this album. If I was to be honest, I think it tails away a little towards the end, because it's a little too, this is what we do, and this is what we're really good at, so we're going to stick to it. But I tell you what, it's really good. And as I say, Alan King, the singer, is really, I mean, why he's not a household name, I've got absolutely no idea, because he is there's a bit of Frankie Miller, there's a bit of Rod Stewart, and I think a bit of John Waite in there. And put that together, that's some combination.
You mentioned Bad English and you mentioned Boulevard, and there's two really good bands right there.
Seriously, I mean, it's going to be, I would suggest, a little lightweight for some, because it's at that kind of, there is some good guitar work in it, but it's not really driving most of the songs most of the time.
It's a bit go westy at times.
Yeah, okay. See, I don't necessarily gravitate towards those sort of things as things I would listen out for.
I don't like it. I loathe them.
I get it as soon as you say I like Go West, but I don't know them enough to think, okay, sounds a bit like Go West. But it sounds like a lot in that era. Yeah, it is really poppy. It should have been huge. But supposedly their American label folded just as it was getting released. So it was one of those where it just all folded in on itself, basically, after that. And then they came back in 2017.
Apparently so.
Yeah, with an album on Escape, which I haven't even gone and listened to yet, because 30 years is a long time. So I thought I'll sit with this one. I really quite like it. If I see it at a decent price, I'm going to buy it. It is really good, and it is right up my street. Although I must admit that start to finish, it's not quite as strong as it makes out, especially the first 5 or 6 songs. First 5 or 6 songs, you think, wow, this is a gem that I've never heard. And after that, you think, yeah, still a decent album. So
Side one's phenomenal.
Great recommendation, Simon. I really liked it. It is right up my street.
And I'd like to thank you for your recommendation as well.
And I'm going to be careful here.
Yeah, we don't want to get demonetized, do we?
You show this album cover like this.
You just look really creepy there. Please, God, that's going to be the thumbnail.
I dread to think the thumbnail's going to be me going, or something as I was doing halfway earlier. So yes, this is Cougar, not Cougar. Cougar.
Yep, I really like that as a ringtone. But let's move along. Yeah, Ed, do you remember? Do you remember when we were on Twitter all the damn time earlier? I said I had a pithy one-word response. One word would be foreigner. Then, and I mean that in a good way, because you asked me, you know, do you love his voice? And if I think well, I mean, I'm hearing a bit of Lou Gramm in that. You're always on the right side of anything, aren't you? Really, but I thought I could add to my one-word review. Yes, it's also Pompey, and I mean Pompey like angel. It's angel-y, yes, and it's also, this is what I really like about it, magnum-y. To the extent that I was driving down the road this afternoon, in between some parked cars, and I was listening to She Walks in Beauty, and I genuinely, absolutely genuinely, because I've now listened to it enough, I can kind of sing along with some of them, did the whole Bob Catley thing as I was driving, and the person that I was actually about to invite to cross the road just looked really confused. What the fuck? Yeah, so yeah, but Lockjaw, by the way, is absolutely immense. Yeah, really, really is. And I'm very, very glad you brought it to my attention. I really am.
I mean, Neville MacDonald, who is the singer in this band, or was a singer in this band, because this is from, I don't even know what year this is from, because this reissue is from 2006. And I think that it actually has cracks and pops from the vinyl that it was recorded from, because it's that kind of reissue. He went on to be in a band called Skin. This is where this conversation started, because now
we're talking about Skin,
Skin wear and Jagged Edge and Night Grey and all that kind of thing. And I mean, this is, the production is meat and potatoes on this, I would suggest. It's really, I mean, if the drummer hits a snare drum now, you may still well be hearing it in about a week and a half's time as it goes. So you have to put that to the side a little bit, But he went on to sing in Skin, and man, oh man, is he even better than that. He's even better. If you like his vocals from hearing Cougar, go and listen to Skin. The sound is a little bit different between the two bands. And live, he was even better than that. Even better. He's one of those guys that you do genuinely think superstar that is now teaching. I believe he's teaching kids, whether I think it's with special needs or whatever it may be, doing something very worthy, that has to be said. But man, oh man, is he a singer? There you go. So yeah, that's Cougar.
I've got it queued up on YouTube to listen to as soon as we get off the air.
There you go. So that was it. Sorry, Simon. And Peter, excuse me.
Cool. Well, that sounds right up my alley. So I can't wait to hear this now.
You like it? I do. As I say, you have to bear in mind that it's never been tidied up production-wise. Never, that I'm aware of anyway. I think that's the only issue that I've got of it.
Okay.
So there you go.
Well, I'm empty. I think Simon's empty. We're all.
Is that a comment? Is that really what you think?
I don't know.
I'm just like so upset.
Are you empty? Are you not? You still have some left?
No, that was sarcasm. I'm English.
Sorry. I'm just a dumb American, it's the way it goes. Anyway, there you have it, everybody. Our favorite and least favorite Europe albums. So for those of you who do like the band or well familiar with their catalog, please list your favorites down in the comments below. If you've never listened to this band or only know that song, please go check some of these albums out. Please listen to them and let us know what you think. Because honestly, we feel very strongly that this band and their more recent output needs to be discovered by more people. So we're going to keep talking about them here on the channel. This won't be the last time you'll hear us talk about Europe, I'm sure, but stay tuned for another episode next week. We're going to go back into the our concert going archives once again and talk about some concert experiences, fun times, crazy stories. Will someone's car have been caught on fire or stolen or smashed? I don't know. Seems like there's crazy car stories all the time.
Another car story to come.
Time.
There you go. So stay tuned for that, and visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together, all the damn time. I'm getting the hang of it. Getting the hang of it. Stay tuned. What do we got? Today's Saturday. So stay tuned. Tomorrow we've got album homework assignment. Myself and Mr. Chris Allo, head-to-head with George Lemie hosting the show. That's coming up tomorrow. And then we've got the Hudson Valley Squares starting off the work week on Monday. So thanks for watching, everybody. For Simon Bray and Steven Reid, I am Pete Pardo. See you next week on the UK Connection. Take care.